What would you do if your child, grown and struggling, came to you with a plea that broke your heart? For me, that moment came on a rainy evening in October, when my son Daniel knocked on my door, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. He was 32, a man by all accounts, but the weight of the world had worn him down to someone I barely recognized. His voice cracked as he asked for help with rent, just enough to keep his cramped apartment for another month. I saw the shame in his eyes, the kind that comes from dreams deferred and a life that hadn't gone as planned. Daniel had always been a dreamer. As a boy, he'd sketch grand blueprints of houses he'd build one day, places where families could feel safe and loved. But life hadn't been kind. After college, he took a job at a construction firm, hoping to climb the ranks. Instead, he faced layoffs, mounting bills, and a string of bad luck that left him scraping by. I'd watched him fight, but that night, his fight seemed gone. I hugged him, told him I'd help, and sent him home with a promise to figure something out. But as I closed the door, an idea sparked one that would change everything. I didn't just want to pay his rent. I wanted to give him a foundation, a place to rebuild his life. For years I'd been saving, planning for a rainy day. That day had come, but not for me, for him. I spent weeks working in secret, consulting realtors, visiting properties, and finally finding a modest house on the edge of town. It wasn't grand, but it was sturdy, with a small yard and windows that caught the morning light. I could see Daniel there, sketching again, dreaming again. The day I signed the papers, my heart raced with anticipation. I didn't tell him. I wanted it to be a surprise. The morning of the reveal, I asked Daniel to meet me at a coffee shop. He looked wary, probably expecting a lecture or a loan. Instead, I handed him a small box with a key inside and told him to drive with me. We pulled up to the house, and I'll never forget his face, confusion melting into disbelief as I said, "This is yours." He walked through the door, touching the walls like they might vanish. Tears welled in his eyes, and for the first time in years, I saw the boy who believed in possibilities. But I knew a house alone wouldn't heal him. Daniel needed more than walls, he needed purpose. That's when I took the next step, the one that would truly change his life. I'd been talking to an old friend, a contractor named Tom, who was looking for a partner with vision. Daniel's sketches, tucked away in a drawer, were proof of that vision. I showed them to Tom, who saw the same spark I did. He offered Daniel a job not as a laborer, but as a designer, someone who could bring ideas to life. I didn't tell Daniel right away. I waited until he'd settled into the house, until he'd started to believe in himself again. One evening, I invited Tom over for dinner at Daniel's new home. Over plates of lasagna, Tom laid out the offer. Daniel's hands shook as he listened, his eyes darting between us. "You really think I can do this?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Tom nodded, and I squeezed his shoulder. "You've always had it in you," I said. "You just needed a chance." The months that followed were a transformation. Daniel threw himself into his work, his sketches turning into real homes for real families. He'd call me late at night, voice buzzing with excitement, describing beams and layouts like a kid with a new toy. The house became his sanctuary, a place where he could dream without fear of falling. He even started a small garden, something he hadn't done since he was a boy. I'd visit and we'd sit on the porch talking about life, love, and the future. He wasn't just surviving anymore, was living. Looking back, I realized the house wasn't the real gift. It was the belief I showed in him, the push to see himself as more than his struggles. Daniel's smile, once so rare, is now a constant. He's building a life, not just houses. And as for me, I learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is not just giving what's asked, but giving what's needed: hope, trust, and a chance to start again.